Yet another WWE star is leaving the company. You can see John Cena's final opponent, because their identity's been leaked, and my review of Monday Netflix Raw. I'm Ollie Davis, and this is the WrestleTalk News. After all your comments yesterday, yes, I have put more effort into my hair.
Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe. Back in my day, WWE stars used to live in a permanent state of fear that any moment they and at least 5 of their colleagues would get a phone call telling them they're being immediately released from the company. It was a simpler time. But in the year of our pool 2025, a new trend has emerged. WWE and their talent are mutually parting ways, because it's been a hot, that's not enough money for me summer. The first was Karrion Kross, who departed WWE on the 10th of August when the two sides couldn't agree on money. Then came NXT's Jasmine Nix, who left the company on the 24th of September because she was on less than $80,000 a year. And now, reportedly, Santos Escobar is also gone from WWE. And a potential reason for all of them appears to be the same. WWE weren't offering enough money. PW Insider has reported Escobar's contract expired on midnight, shortly after this week's episode of Raw, which means he has immediately become a free agent with no non-compete period, i.e. he'll be revealed as the Don Callis family's 39th member on tonight's Title Tuesday episode of AEW Dynamite. The last week has seen Santos post photos of him brooding in a suit on social media, some with a sand timer emoji, teasing that he has something new planned. This culminated in a video posted around the same time his contract expired that appeared to be him advertising his non-WWE gimmick with just the initial S and the caption Palante, which means onwards. According to the report, WWE wanted to keep Escobar and even offered him more money than he was previously on, but it was he who turned down the new deal. Fightful added that his decision wasn't so much because of the money, but more because of creative dissatisfaction. He hasn't been booked in a match since July's Super Show in Mexico, and has only wrestled 7 times for WWE this year. Santos had previously made his name as El Hijo del Fantasma in CMLL, AAA, and TNA. With the latter 2 of those now effectively under WWE control, it'll be interesting to see if he starts appearing there, or if he takes the CMLL route, which is currently in a boom period. CMLL also has a working relationship with AEW. It's expected that Santos's remaining WWE stablemates, Angel and Berto, will just become their own tag team now, potentially dropping the Legado del Fantasma name. Rather forebodingly, though, is what Sean Ross Sapp has posted on Twitter. We've seen Killer Kross, Jasmine Nix, and Santos Escobar all pass on WWE offers in the last few months. There might be more coming too. The only WWE contracts we know are coming up soon are The Miz and Dragon Lee, who both have deals through the end of 2025. Oh, and of course, John Cena. In WWE's Netflix docuseries Unreal, there's a moment where Triple H and John Cena are planning the latter's retirement year. And they joke they'd have to do something monumentally stupid to screw it up. Congratulations! Congratulations, guys, you managed it. You turned him heel with no real follow-up. You made Travis Scott and Logan Paul the focus. You had one of the worst WrestleMania main events of all time. You got rid of R-Truth for no reason. You didn't do CM Punk and Cena at Money in the Bank. You brought back Brock Lesnar just to squash him. And of course, worst of all, the Cone Zone. Last clap. Over the last 2 weeks on the WrestleTalk podcast, cheap plug, Luke and I have discussed whether Cena's is actually the worst wrestling retirement ever, and asked if Triple H is actually a good booker. Click the links in the video description below to watch those. And Luke did annoyingly raise a good point. Sometimes it's how you leave them. And if WWE can just go back to basics and play the babyface Cena hits for the next few months, the whole retirement run could be somewhat saved. Problem is, Cena only has 5 more dates left. That's why it's been up to social media and 2 weeks of in-ring AJ Styles promos to build their crown jewel match this Saturday. So how best to build his final opponent? It's Triple H booking wrestling, with a tournament, of course. The Wrestling Observer is reporting that Triple H will likely soon announce a tournament where a number of top names will compete to be Cena's final opponent, with his last match happening at the December 13th Saturday night's main event. And the only match listed for that event so far backstage is, unsurprisingly, Cena versus that tournament's winner, Gunther. With Cena's limited amount of dates, a tournament is a good way to build up his opponent without Cena actually having to be around. It's rather fitting, in a way, that we won't see him much. Before I get into my Raw review, there's an even bigger match happening tomorrow, Wednesday the 8th of October. It's a Clash of the Comics, a comedy mega event live from London's iconic Hammersmith Apollo in support of comic relief, where the UK's biggest comedians step into the wrestling ring for one night only. In the main event, Ed Gamble will challenge Phil Wang for the Clash of Comics Championship. And in a special series of interviews, our very own Brian Children, who's getting his last chance with us to be an actually competent interviewer, has been on location with the competitors. Here he is, talking to Phil Wang.
Hello, it's me, Brian Children, on his last chance for WrestleTalk, and I'm here with Phil Wang, who's going to be facing Ed Gamble on Wednesday. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts, Brian Children, is I'm going to win my title back. I didn't even lose it. Ed the Gambler Gamble stole it from me, like the weasel he is. Well, this injustice is not going to go unanswered. Come Clash of the Comics, the title's coming home where it belongs.
You know what? That was actually okay, Brian. That was a basically fine interview. Let's see how he does tomorrow talking to Ed Gamble. Clash of the Comics will be available to watch in the UK later this year, but if you're outside of the UK, you can catch the whole show on pay-per-view anytime for 7 days, starting from soon after the show ends on Wednesday evening. Just visit clashofthecomics.live to witness wrestling and comedy history. Now here's my review of Monday Night Raw in about 5 minutes. After returning at the end of last week's show, Roman Reigns opened this episode getting Dallas, Texas to acknowledge him, before getting interrupted by Paul Heyman and Bronson Reed. Heyman said that Reed is the only person Reigns truly fears, even though Roman beat him clean in his last match, because he had to be stretchered out after the post-match beatdown. Heyman made the challenge for Crown Jewel, but in an Australian street fight, which I guess is a lot like a normal street fight, just with some cans of Foster's and spiders that will kill you, and the whole street being upside down. Roman stood tall in the resulting brawl, but far more interesting was the new chapter of the Bloodline saga. Backstage, Jay said he'd have Roman's back against Reed, which sounds like a nice offer, but psych, you're a pussy, Jay! Roman told him to hyper-focus on his own opportunities, just like they talked about. Like how CM Punk has a promo segment tonight. Why is he getting a chance to speak rather than you, Jay? Jay walked off meanly, leaving Roman alone with Jimmy, and Reigns reminded Jimmy that he sees and hears everything. What's so bad about taking advice from Reigns? Breaking news! Roman watches Raw at home confirmed. That's my OTC, as an original tribal C-word. The treatment of Roman's character to still be a manipulating dickhead despite getting cheered by the crowd is incredibly disciplined. The best match of the night, however, was the first one. Becky Lynch versus Maxine Dupree. Hear me out. Dupree last wrestled Becky in August in a standard 5-minute match. The whole point there was that Becky put her Intercontinental title on the line because she didn't see Maxine as an actual threat. It was all really a way to antagonize Natalya, which meant you expected something similar here. This is just another glorified enhancement match to build Becky for a singles feud with AJ Lee. It started off as you would think. Becky is in control despite a few fiery moments from Maxine, and then it goes through a commercial break, and then Maxine is reversing the disarmer, and then Maxine got a really good near fall, and the whole crowd is chanting, "This is awesome. Oh my god, what's happening?" This is the best surprise underdog performance of the year. The last time I remember this being done so well was Chris Jericho versus Action Andretti in December 2022. Us as viewers were expertly taken on a 6-week journey from Maxine back then to kayfabe and shoot improving to where she actually beat Becky. Yes, it was via countout because Lynch got distracted posing and trash talking looking at the audience, but that only made it more believable. Maxine played her role perfectly, and Becky yet again selflessly elevated her opponent. Sadly, I don't care anywhere near as much about the Lyra Valkyria and Bayley storyline, probably because all they do is wrestle either Raquel Rodriguez or Roxanne Perez. It was Lyra versus Perez here, which Roxanne won because of a distracting brawl at ringside. Bayley marched her and Lyra to the back afterwards for a brawl. The world champion bareback rider was shown in the crowd. Giggity! In his first appearance since WrestlePalooza, CM Punk came to the ring to promise that by the end of the year, he will beat Seth Rollins to win the World Heavyweight title. This brought out LA Knight, who said he gets the next shot, because you know who's never been pinned by Rollins? To which Punk answered, I guess the same guy who's never been World Heavyweight Champion. Ooh! As much as I love the tension between Punk and Knight, it was the Usos continuing the Bloodline soap opera that made the segment. Jay came down, who Punk called Little Roman. Jimmy tried to stop Jay hitting Punk, but Punk punched Jay, so Jimmy superkicked him. This set up the night's main event of the Usos versus Punk and Knight. And also one more backstage segment, where Roman told Jimmy that as soon as Jay won the title, he became more like Reigns than his own twin brother. In more family drama, Io Sky announced Kairi and Asuka aren't family anymore. With Rhea Ripley not at this show, Asuka got a match booked between Io and Kairi. It was a complex dynamic, as Kairi and Io didn't want to fight each other, but Asuka kept screaming at Sane from the outside. In the end, Asuka leveraged Kairi's pin to win, and they beat her down afterwards. We got part 2 of the Seth vs. Cody video package, recapping their alliance at WrestleMania 40, and how Rhodes kind of betrayed that when he started teaming with Roman later that year. It kind of made Seth the babyface. And it's why, even with 2 other great storylines on Raw right now, with the Io-Asuka feud and the Bloodline, this one is my favourite, because we then cut back to a broken Seth staring at his watch, both a metaphor for his relationship with Cody and how time might be running out for him leading his own faction. Because he then asked Heyman what really happens if he does lose to Rhodes. At first, Heyman went into promoter mode. How Seth won't lose, that's impossible, you're Seth frickin' Rollins, a visionary, the future, blah blah blah. But then Seth asked him to cut the crap and give it to him straight. What if he loses? And Heyman said, if Seth loses, Bron Breakker will lose respect for him. Bronson Reed might not follow him. And Heyman will have to ask himself why he ever chose Seth over Roman. This was an excellent segment, and it's the most I've enjoyed Rollins in years. AJ Styles and Dragon Lee recruited Penta for a trios match against Dominic Mysterio, Finn Balor, and JD McDonough. This was really just a fun way to build Styles for his Cena match on Saturday, so I got distracted looking up the Judgment Day's tag record. Since they won the tag team titles from the New Day, on the 30th of June episode of Raw, they have only defended it once against the LWO on the 28th of July. And in the 3.5 months since, have only had one other straight tag match on the 18th of August against Liam Mr. Iguana. He's got an iguana. This is ridiculous! Dom ran away when an angry Rusev marched down the ramp, Penta accidentally superkicked Rusev, probably starting a feud there, and Styles got the pin. And the main event saw Knight and Punk reluctantly tag against the Usos, with all the arguing and hard tags you can fit into a 10-minute match. Punk ultimately hit a GTS on Jay, but Knight blind tagged himself in to steal the pin in a fun finish. For a change, this was a great and effective go-home episode at 87%. We will have live reactions for Crown Jewel exclusively on Patreon this Saturday. So go to patreon.com/WrestleTalk and sign up there now. And click the video on screen for an existential threat to the entire wrestling industry, which could be a disaster for WWE and AEW.